Endwalker's player base is dropping like crazy right now, and I think I might understand why that's happening. Hey, what's going on, guys? SnivyPootis here, and welcome back to another video. And I know I haven't made a video in a while, but I figured that now is a good time as any, since there's a bunch of talk that's been going on for a couple weeks now, where people have been saying that Endwalker is the worst expansion in the game right now, and that there's no content, and that people are super bored, and that like the relic grind is non-existent, and yada yada yada. Like, there's a lot of people who are upset with Endwalker right now after, you know, realizing, hey, we don't got a lot to do right now. And I finally figured out as to why that was happening. So I've been doing a little bit of behind the scenes research and talking to people about like what they think about Endwalker and like what they think of the content right now, and yeah, and all that good stuff. And the general discourse seems to be that there's just nothing to do for endgame, because if you think back to Shadowbringers, they had Bajra, which was the sprawling not A-War-Z, but Eureka type adventure thing where you went into a separate instance and you had to gather resources to upgrade your weapon, including going to an instance where you could only go into once every I don't even know the timing on it, but you couldn't go into it all the time, so you had to time it well as to when you could go in, because if you missed your opportunity, then you couldn't go in, and you had to just keep grinding around the fates and whatnot. You know, it's basically just a glorified fake grind, but in a different area with like all unique bosses and instances and a little bit of lore sprinkled in between if you collect the field notes. So yeah, it was like a whole thing, and a lot of people at the time didn't really like it. They thought it was like a worse Eureka because, you know, people were saying that the colors were washed out and they looked gray and drab and boring, and that it was just, you know, didn't feel that great to do, especially with at the time, there was a time where the instance, which was Castrum, the Castrum for Bajra's sake, it was just not worth running because people would go in, they'd do it for their quests, and they get their thing, and then no one would want to rerun it again for relics for people who didn't really, you know, get to do it at the time when it was popular. So now they have a bit more rewards, but now those rewards are also relevant, so you have literally no reason to go in there unless you're trying to do your relic, and the only way you can do it now is by going to a dedicated Discord server where they host organized parties to go in and do the content. And yes, you can 3-man it, as from what I hear, but it's significantly slower compared to just having a full team of people who have you know, spirits, essences, whatever it's called, and they just go in, whack the bosses one by one until they get to the end, and then, you know, rinse and repeat until you get all the stuff you need. I haven't really seen any recently, but it's safe to say the amount of people who carry around Heaven's Ward in ARR or even Endwalker relics compared to Shadowbringers relics is quite substantial, because I can't remember the last person I've seen who was toting around a Shadowbringer's fully upgraded weapon. Hell, I haven't even fully upgraded a Shadowbringer's weapon, I don't think. My Paladin is pretty close, but I don't know if I ever finished it. But that's besides the point. Point is, it's quite a challenge. It really is. And if you want to do it nowadays, you have to be committed to it. But with Endwalkers, you just spend 1,500 tomes, and that's it. So you really, all it is just a glorified tome farm where you just spend 1,500 tomes, where right now you can only get to tier 3, so at a total of 4,500 tomes you can upgrade your weapon to the fullest capabilities right now for no, basically the only hard part is just getting all the relic tomestones together, and, you know, trying to actually do all that content to get the tomes in the first place. That's really the only tough part of the relic grind right now. Otherwise, it's kind of a thing you kind of passively do in the background, and I don't really know about it myself. I don't really mind it that much. Personally, I don't really think a relic grind is always that crazy. Like, yes, I understand that it's good for if you're trying to find something to do past endgame, because if you're just sitting there playing the game and then not really doing anything that's significant, and you're just sort of like gaining tomes, and then after you get the tomes that you want, you go and get the weapon, and then once you get the weapon, you just rinse and repeat till you get to the next tier, and then you just wait for the next patch to drop so that you can get the next version of the weapon. And while yes, that doesn't sound very entertaining, I can understand to the people who will want something more. But the problem is when we had that option, you know, with Shadowbringers and Basha, people were really not happy with it at the time, and now people are realizing, hey, wait a minute, that was actually kind of nice, and I would want something like that. But it's more of a matter of like, what would they do at this point? Because obviously they don't want to do another Basha type thing or Eureka type thing where you go into a separate instance and then you go and fight fates all the time and get resources and yada yada yada, because no one wants to do all that. No one, like, let's be honest, no one wants to do that. People want something that's fun, engaging, something like Heaven's Ward's Relic, because Heaven's Ward's, I think, is like the best balance between grindy and ease of access. Like, you can, if you want to get a Heaven's Ward Relic, you can go and get it without much trouble at all. But with Basha, or, you know, with Stormblood or Shadowbringers, or God forbid ARR, you have to put in so much extra time and effort and work in order to get to that stage, in order to actually get the weapon that you want. And half the time people give up before they even get to the max tier. Like, I cannot really say how many times I've seen a max tier Eureka weapon, but it hasn't been a lot, because let's be honest, no one wants to do that. I mean, to this day, there are still plenty of people who are playing Eureka and going through it and trying to help people do fates. Like, I was in it recently, actually, and I was trying to get some relic stuff done because I had nothing else to do. And there was quite a bit of people who were in the instance, so it's not like it's dead or anything. It's far from it. Like, it will never be truly dead for as long as the game is alive. So I wouldn't worry about having to not have any way to get your Stormblood relics. It might be a bit slower depending on what time of day you're playing and what server you're on, but overall it's usually not that bad. If you want to get a relic weapon from Stormblood, then it shouldn't be that bad. That being said, it's more of just the case of like, okay, yeah, a relic weapon sucks, but what else is there? You know, you have Savage or Ultimate, but not everyone is a fan of Savage or Ultimate or Extreme Trials or Unreals. Most people don't care about Unreals. I personally do them all the time when I can, but I'm really excited to do for it, and I haven't done it yet, but not a lot of people are a fan of that high-end content. Like, even if it's just Unreals or Extremes, people don't typically care about that all the time. The only people who really care to do Savage are the people who want to get BIS and want to parse and want to, you know, get the high rankings on FF logs, audio, all that cool stuff. I also almost said yada yada again, but and the people who want to do ultimates are the people who either do it for the fun, do it for the challenge, or they do it for the weapon or the title, calling card, whatever the fuck. But most people just do it for, you know, the sake of having something to do and also just to have fun. You know, like, there are some people obviously who will do it just for the weapon and then dip out, peace, never come back to it. But most people do it just for the sake of having something to do, because there's nothing else to do. But the problem is that not everyone is a fan of doing that high-end content, as I said before. So when you don't have that and the relics are boring, then you have this kind of limbo that we're in right now. Yes, you can do the alliance raids and get max weapons and armor and whatnot. Do that, but if you aren't a fan of doing, you know, the alliance raid every week, which, I mean, to be fair, they are buffed now, so if you want to do them, now's the best time to do them again, because, you know, you get extra tomes from doing them, especially in the alliance raid roulette. But past that, it's like, kind of like, yeah, you know, what can you do? Because people just want something that's fun and engaging to do. And hell, I haven't even talked about Criterion dungeons yet, because for the simple fact of, like, yeah, they exist, but like no one's doing those either. Like, there's no reward for doing them. Like, people were hoping that it was going to be an alternative to Savage grinding, but now that's not even an option. Like, the most you get is Materia, but like Materia, if you want that, you can just do hunt trains, and those are way faster and way better for getting Materia than any other method in the game right now. So there's really no point of doing Criterion dungeons besides doing it on the first day of the patch to get all the different pathways and all that stuff, and after that, then it's just kind of like, okay, well, it's there. Like, I can't remember the last time I stepped into either the Criterion dungeons or Variant dungeons since they launched, because like they have no reason for me to do so. because there's nothing for me to do in there. Like I'll do it, but like, you know, there's no roulette either. Like it would be cool if there was a roulette or something, and maybe you got extra stuff if you did a certain path or something like that, or you know, maybe they added a new path every so often to the older ones, so that way it gave it more agency and more interest into it. But they're kind of making them, but they're not really doing anything with them. That's the problem. Like that's the problem with a lot of the stuff in Endwalker, is that they're making things. Yes, there's things to do, but there's nothing to gain from doing those things. Like the relic weapons are nice, but like if they're so easy to get, then it kind of defeats the purpose of the relic weapon, because they're supposed to be a huge undertaking of a grind that you have to do several hundreds of hours, maybe even, to get to where you want to do. And then once you get it, then you feel rewarded. But like with the Endwalker, it's just kind of like you spend the tomes and then you're done. So it really is just a big content drought that we're in right now, and the players are dropping like flies. And I don't really know if Yoshi P or Square Enix as a whole, or you know, creative business unit, who are the people behind Final Fantasy XIV, are going to do anything about it just yet. But I really hope so, because at this point they're really just struggling to retain their active player base, because if they just don't do anything with the game for so long, then they're just going to end up having a bunch of unhappy customers, because, you know, like people are not shy from shitting on 14 when they do something stupid or do something that people don't agree with, and right now people are definitely doing that. So yeah, I don't know if Yoshi P even cares at this point, or if he's even responding to all that nonsense. But hopefully we'll get a better relic weapon, or at least maybe like a side trial story like they did with Emerald Weapon, Ruby Weapon, all that stuff with at Endwalker. But I feel like at this point, if they wanted to do that, they would have started that way back when, and they haven't even so much as hinted at doing something like that. So really, we don't really have much else to do right now. So it's unfortunate, but you know, it is what it is. We can't really force them to work faster, because that's kind of rude of the devs. Like, they're doing their best, but just keep in mind, please do not harass devs or anybody working on the game to like, hey, why is this game so boring right now? I need stuff to do. Why are you making Criterion so bad? It's like, you have to understand they're only human, and they have their own lives, their own families to get to. So please do not harass any devs. That goes for Final Fantasy or anything in general, but like especially right now with Final Fantasy, like just understand that there are circumstances to why things the way they are. So let's just hope that things get better before they get worse. Anyway, that's been enough for me, and thanks so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys all for the next one. Peace out.